Good
All
evening.
right. Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're live. Got a handful of people already watching us, which is good. How you doing, James? You all right?
I'm okay. I had my jab yesterday, and
Perfect.
I have to admit that I am feeling a bit strange,
Mhm.
a bit woozy, but I'm okay. I'm glad I had it. So I don't know. I hope everybody else in this industry gets it quickly too, because we know, private hire drivers are at risk. So if you get the call, go. But it kind of knocks you out for a day or two. I think you had it. You had the same experience, Yasin, did you?
Yeah. No, I had it as well. But I'm okay, to be honest. It didn't affect me, to be honest. Like the first day, I felt a bit lazy, a bit dizzy, but after that, I've been okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's been a hell of a week. A lot going down in just a couple of days. And we're getting lots of calls. Everybody's very excited because Uber Uber mate came kicking and screaming to the table, sort of. So we're going to try and unpack that for people as best we can, and try to think about what's next. Also want to talk about this facial recognition problem, the story that went out last night, and what we're doing about that. Because it's all got to do with this problem of so many drivers getting slung off the app for alleged fraudulent activity, that we know. We just know that these are false accusations. But anyway, everybody's got a right to be heard. So we're pushing back pretty hard on that. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And of course, everybody's had tons of questions about what does it mean? What does Uber's communication this week mean exactly? Where do we go from here? And so on. So we'll get into that. I think Yasin's gone around to round up a few people on WhatsApp groups and just let people know that we're on live. So we'll just sort of spin our wheels a little bit until Yasin gets back, but not too much. So maybe a good place to start is this whole facial recognition fraudulent use, fraudulent activity, accusations that are being slung around by Uber, but not just Uber, and what do they mean? Well, to really understand what's going on, you have to go back to when Uber lost its license the last time. Let's just do this first, since Yasin's not here. I'll dig into this a little bit, and then we can get back to the Uber Supreme Court change in business model, all that kind of stuff after that. If you go back to 2019, November 2019, when Uber lost its license, it lost its license for 3 reasons. It all had to do with security in the app. So about 20 people, there was 3 things. There was identity fraud. There was people using GPS spoofing in order to place themselves in the queue at the airport. And then the third one was people had access to this iOS patch that allowed them the ability to get inside the app in a way that you can choose the job. You could choose the job, or you could see what job is being queued up for you, and then reject it and try and cherry pick better jobs for better earnings. So those were the 3 things that were happening. The most serious one for licensing matters really was the identity one, because obviously for licensing terms, only private hire drivers that are licensed and private hire vehicles that are licensed can be properly insured for hire and reward. And so if anybody else is carrying out hire and reward work without licensing, then you wouldn't be insured, and that's a danger to the public and so on. So TfL take that, rightly take that pretty seriously. But the scale of this problem was pretty small. There was something like 21 people involved in this. Well, there was 21 people properly registered on the app who were known to have shared their app with another person. So they estimated there were about, in total, 43 people involved. 21 were licensed and then chose to share. That's what they detected. That was out of 90,000 people that were scanned over multiple years. You can see through the when Uber appealed for its license, all of this stuff was played out in court. There are thousands of pages of witness statements. I've been through them all, so you don't have to. But that's where all of this stuff was played out. Now, in order for Uber to hold on to its license that time, what happened was, I think their license was up maybe August, September, and TfL gave them, if you remember, like a 3-month or a month and a 90-day, I think a 90-day extension while they investigated these matters a bit more. And on the 89th day before the decision had to be made on the license, Uber ran. They didn't walk. They ran into TfL to offer to implement this real-time ID system, which incorporates facial recognition, this Microsoft facial recognition system, but also incorporates geolocation identity checks. That's just basically cross-checking, where you are and if it's possible for you. I mean, if they detect you, in Stansted at 2 and then voila, you're in Heathrow at 2:05, they're going to make the assumption that that's a time and a distance too far apart, that it could not be you, and therefore there's some level of identity fraud going on. That's the logic of what they're checking. We reckon they're checking many other things also, and the surveillance system is also used for other things as well, quality, performance management as well. So that Uber ran into TfL with this, and to be honest with you, one is as bad as the other, TfL and Uber. If you want to look at it this way, the whole licensing crisis of 2019 and 2020 with Uber, in my opinion, was just TfL forcing Uber into introducing that system, because it makes TfL's life a lot easier, because you're basically getting a big operator like Uber to automate enforcement, checking, so on. Hello, Juan. And that's so, TfL kind of manifests a crisis, and then Uber has to jump through hoops and spend a lot of money and introduce this tech, which is really, in my opinion, that's what this was really about. That's what TfL wanted, and they had to create a crisis with Uber to make Uber do it, because they knew Uber was doing it in other jurisdictions, and it worked. So Uber introduced it. Uber introduced it very quickly. So they promised it. Hello, Baran, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Long time no speak. So Uber introduced this thing really rapidly in the spring of 2020. We know in March 2020, Uber went into TfL to review the so-called data protection impact assessment document, which is really a document that says, well, look, we're going to use this system. Here's how we're going to use it. Here's the limitations. Here's the tolerances. No technology is perfect, right? So you have to have these types of governing documents to say, well, look, we expect to be right, 99% of the time, 98% of the time, whatever, and this is how we'll manage risk, and this is how we'll manage appeals and whatever. They would have reviewed all that with TfL. I mean, they never reviewed it with the drivers, of course, and never negotiated with driver unions. It's just typical with all these platform companies. I say Uber a lot, but to be fair, Uber's probably not even the worst at this stage. I mean, Bolt's pretty high on my list at the moment. for malcontents. But so this was reviewed with TfL, but TfL won't give us the document. We've asked to see it. They won't give it to us. Uber certainly won't give it to us. But anyway, it was introduced rapidly through 2020. And the idea was they were going to court in September 2020 to have their appeal hearing, which was at the Westminster Magistrates Court in September 2020. So they wanted to get it rammed in by September 2020 so that they could run into court and say, look, we've done this now. It's all in place. And it worked. The court bought it and Uber got its license back. And of course, TfL is happy because that's really all they wanted out of this anyway. Why is this such a big problem? A couple of reasons. Facial recognition is a very sensitive technology. It's a very sensitive technology to be used against people. It needs to be governed properly. You need to have proper risk management in place. You need to be sure that it's working properly, and you need to have a plan in place when it doesn't work properly. So they rammed this thing through really quickly, and it doesn't work properly. Is the long and short of it. We know that. But what was the problem that we're trying to address? So that, like I said, it was 20 people out of, and I know this because if you read through all these witness statements, TfL kept going back to Uber, and they kept making Uber search and check over and over again. And in the end, Uber searched 90,000 drivers who were active at one time or another over 2 to 3 years prior. 90,000 people. And they checked them up ways, down ways, sideways, and they only ever detected 21 people. Now, 21 people out of 90,000 over many years, well, at least 3 years. To me, that's not bad. That's not bad. If that's the scale of your problem, that's not bad. But that's, TfL made this, pushed Uber into introducing this because they wanted it. So TfL had to make up a bit of a crisis about it. The other two things, like I said, were the geolocation cheating, but that's not really a security issue, is it? I mean, it's a bad manners thing. You're jumping the queue at the airport, but there's no question of anybody being picked up, passenger being picked up by somebody who's not insured properly or whatever. That's a different issue. What people were doing was cheating the GPS to put them in the queue at the airport, because, and this is partly due to the horrendous conditions at the Heathrow AVA that we've been working on separately. Yasin can talk about what we're doing with that. But you can't blame people for not wanting to be there for 5 hours or whatever. But that's what that was about. I don't quite get what TfL's point about that is. If I'm not on a job and I'm just making myself available, I'm not on a job, I don't even see that's regulated activity. I don't see how that's any of TfL's business, to be honest with you. But anyway, there's Eddie, our new chairman from Glasgow. Good to see you, Eddie. We should speak soon. So there was about 750, 800 people involved in that. And then the final bit was this iOS patch that was available on the black market that allowed people to be able to cherry pick jobs. I don't think very many people were involved in that. I think it might have been about 50 people. It wasn't a big volume of people detected doing that. But of the 750 people that were involved in the GPS thing, I think about 125 were eventually deactivated and over that at Uber. But that's the scale of the three problems that TfL was seeking to address by pushing Uber into introducing this real-time hybrid ID system, which includes facial recognition. But the problem with it is, if TfL wanted that as a regulatory standard, it would have to do what it's kind of doing with the CCTV right now. They'd have to have published a consultation. Everybody and their mother would have had to have some say into it. And then when they're ready to make a decision, they would have had to commission an independent regulatory impact assessment. So in other words, they'd have to spend a lot of money on a consulting firm to come in to say, these changes that you want to pose in regulation would have this impact or not, and it would work or it wouldn't work, or it would be a waste of time, whatever. They'd have to do that. And they'd also have to do an equalities impact assessment. So particularly on minority groups, what would the impact be? And of course, 94% of private hire drivers are BAME, so it would be a significant issue. But as it happened, all they have to do is twist Uber's arm, and you don't have to do any of that because you get Uber doing it. Then everybody else has to do it. So Bolt has just completed a new round of funding in December for $180 million because they want to go and get it. And Ola also already have it with this so-called Guardian system. So you've got all of this surveillance stuff. The regulator is pushing it hard. But the problem is it doesn't work. It doesn't work perfectly. And it works wrongly enough to turn people's lives upside down. So I hope everybody saw the ITV story. If not, we can link it in here. So you can watch that and see what happened to one of our members who was falsely flagged and misidentified on the facial recognition system. He was deactivated by Uber. Transport for London immediately revoked his license. We got involved. We turned the whole thing around. He got back on Uber and got TfL to call back the revocation. I mean, that's the power of being in a union. So I want to say to everybody, join a union, because the story I'm telling you here about all of these surveillance systems and these that are being pushed by TfL onto these operators are using them. This is just going to get worse. It's going to get more intense. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of it. So you want to join a union for sure to have somebody on behind you at your back for that. But the other thing is that I wanted to say about these surveillance systems is how secret they are. So like, there's a lot of stuff that's being monitored about how you work, where you work, and an output of that monitoring is a certain profiling of you, and then based on a certain profile, how much work you get. Now, Uber's completely denied that, but we've caught Ola red-handed in court in Amsterdam last week. So we know that they do earnings profiling of drivers, and they also do fraud profiling. And now we've got an order that they have to disclose that. They also have to disclose how your personal data, so how your personal information is pushed through their fraud system, the Guardian system. And so we'll be following up on that. But what I mean by personal data is if they are using this data to surveil you in the way that Uber has been with their system, they have to tell you all about it. So with that, I do want to just remind everybody again that we have this challenge through Worker Info Exchange that every driver should be asking for their data. It's your right under the EU General Data Protection Regulation and also in the UK under the Data Protection Act. There's nothing hostile about you asking your platform for your data, whether it's Uber, Bolt, Ola, Amazon Flex, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, whatever. Ask for your data. It's very, very important for you, whether you consider yourself a worker, employee, or self-employed. You really need to be looking at that data. You work for a digitally intermediated work platform. It's very important to understand your data. So please register with us. You can do it for free, and we'll make sure that you get the data that you're entitled to. But Yassine, you want to say anything more about the facial recognition? Maybe you might want to talk about the bias aspect of it, Yassine, yeah, the racial bias aspect of it.
I mean, we could talk about it. Like the point is, look, you know, I think we have shared that link for everyone to join for the facial recognition, especially for the data side, yeah, the Workers Info Exchange. But the problem we have is I'm getting loads of calls from drivers getting deactivated. And there's nothing we could do, and seriously, and I've just get, especially that we got over 200 people watching. You know, we're a union. Let's forget Uber for the second. Let's forget everything here. We're a union here. I'm a president of union, James the general secretary, and we're doing everything to help our members. And there's only so much we could do. So every day I'm getting a driver calling me with some kind of issue, like especially when they're getting unfairly having their license revoked based on this facial recognition. And what could we do? We can't do anything for them because they joined us too late. And this is why it's important to be part of a union, because one of our policy is, let's say you join today, We can't help you with any predated issue, and we can't help you within the first 2 months. So let's say you join up today for a whole year, and in 3 months' time you had an issue, and let's say TFL, you were one of those drivers that unfairly got targeted and had your license revoked. We as a union are happy to spend whatever we need to defend you at magistrate court. And the article James was talking about, Imran, again, we got involved as a union, and he's lucky he had us. He's lucky he was a member. We managed to get his license back. We managed to get him back on Uber. Uber admitted fault there. So we could go on talking about how many people are victimized based on this facial recognition. And there is a problem because it was rushed through. It's a bit racist. I mean, it's a bit hard to tell you, but
a bit racist.
I mean,
it's totally racist.
Because it's profiled in such a way where if you suddenly grow a beard, you'll fail. Especially like colored people, they failed their identification. They haven't done anything wrong. All they've done is like the system failed to recognize them, and they are then being reported to TFL for sharing their app, and they haven't.
So let's share the facts about this facial recognition system. It's Microsoft's facial recognition system. The MIT, you may have heard of MIT University in the States, did a research on it a few years ago that compared Amazon's facial recognition, IBM and Microsoft. Microsoft has a failure rate of 12% for people of color. And that rises to 20% for women of color. And it's actually almost perfect for middle-aged white men like myself. That's a fact. And if you look at that ITV piece, which hopefully we have in the comments here, Joel Hills, who's the reporter, did that. He interviewed the president of Microsoft. He openly admits it that there's a problem. Because Microsoft know, because I mean anybody who's good with technology will tell you, they'll openly tell you there's limits, there's limitations. You can't use the system in the way that TFL and Uber want to use this, that it's definitive and it doesn't need checking and it doesn't need an appeals process. Well, that's not true. But there are real limitations with this technology, and the research has shown it. And we've the difference with ADCU is that there are other organizations sort of bleat on about it, and it's a flag wave, and send out a few tweets and jump up and down. But like the difference for us is that we've been working on this issue for many months now and been digging into it, and we didn't want to talk about what was going on here. And there's actually still a lot more to come on this topic, wink, that we can't talk about just yet. And we will be talking about in the future, because it's not to the benefit of our members to be bleating on about it. Even though I'd love to tell you, I'd love to go on and on about it, but it wouldn't be in the interest of members. But the point is that if it's the right union, because we know what we're doing, we dig into these things, and we get to the heart of it, we get to the root of it, and that's what we're doing. So today we've asked Microsoft to suspend Uber's license to use facial recognition in the UK, because Microsoft, having recognized there is a problem with this product, suspended all sales of it to any US police force in the US since the Black Lives Matter protests last summer. That's how much they took seriously that there's a problem with this technology. But here we are in London, Uber's just using it willy-nilly with a 94% BME workforce, and TFL is letting them do it, and TFL is actually encouraging it, and there's no controls whatsoever in place. Microsoft, Uber says, there's an appeals process. There is not. The people who have been deactivated, they go through a process, they've been suspended, they've been told somebody will contact them from the security department, nobody ever does, then they're deactivated, and that's the end of it. So we're onto it, and we're in touch with Microsoft. We've asked Microsoft to cancel the license. if it's not fit for US police forces to use it, it's surely not fit for Uber to be using it, and certainly not the way they have been using it. And we've, through hard work, we're on to a lot more cases, by the way, which we can't talk about, but through sheer hard work on this one, we identified a failure and we rooted out that failure, and now we got the smoking gun. It's failed. And TfL were wrong. TfL immediately revoked these guys and didn't give them a chance. And TfL are absolutely wrong on this one. We've written to the mayor as well in partnership with Big Brother Watch. And that's part of our demands, is that for everyone that was revoked or warned even over this so-called fraudulent activity, we've asked immediately on an emergency basis for TfL to go back and review all those revocations and make sure that if they were using any kind of evidence from Uber out of this real-time ID system, that's reviewed very carefully, and we want to be in the room when it is being reviewed. Yassine.
Yeah, no, that's it. Okay, so we've got a lot to get through. 26 minutes in, over 200 people. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
By the way, most of the people watching ain't members. Yeah. And one of the thing about ADCU and everyone out there that knows us, and you already know us, like Hassan and all you guys. I don't want to mention your names out. Yeah. We've been there from day one for 6 years, organizing drivers. Yeah. And we're the only union that are more active in terms of helping drivers on a day-to-day basis. And as Steve put, I think Steve put a comment here. So with what? So it's £7 a month, £60 for the year to join the union. So we're not having a meeting today just for our members. We're willing to, speak and address all the drivers and give like what we can. And we're not no expert. We're not solicitors. I'm not a solicitor. James not a solicitor. I haven't got paid £1 million by Uber, nor has James. We're doing what we can. We're trying to give people the best advice we can. But end of the day, it's not just about this Uber. What James mentioned and we just briefly touched on, people have issue on a day-to-day, which is the TfL issue. People are going to have issues with Ola. You're going to have issues with Bolt. So the industry, there's a lot to do. And the only way we're going to grow stronger is when we have members and real people behind us, supporting us. So you could just be in the background and just, but I mean, like the point is, look, we're there to protect you, and the union's there for you guys, and we're as strong as the members we have, and we are growing at such an alarming rate. Like I never seen our membership grow in such numbers, over the last 3-4 weeks. Yeah. So we're doing the right thing, but the point is still not enough. We should be touching 20,000 figures. That's the target I want to be.
Yeah. It's staggering. It's absolutely shocking and transformational to see the surge of growth of membership. Is unbelievable. And although also too, it's from all app-based workers. So we're getting a rush of Deliveroo riders join us in the run up to the IPO, because they know we beat Uber. And they know that we can beat Deliveroo as well. But it's amazing. It's amazing to see this rush of membership. But we got to keep it up. We got to keep it up, because what we'll get onto this in a second. But what you can see is a very complicated situation emerging now from Uber on the back of the Supreme Court. And we'll certainly keep litigating. We'll certainly keep going back to court. But we need to now that we've got a really solid base of union power, we need to build it, because I'm telling you, in the long run, that's the quickest way to get things changed. And we're building that, but that's where you come in. You need to join the union. You need to join the union because you need to protect yourself from what's coming down the line from these regulators. But also you need to join a union to win in the long run, because we need to transform this thing. We need to see people earning really good money for the work that you do. You do hard work. You do, at times, risky work. It's a lot of responsibility. Everybody here should be getting paid a lot of money. I always think about in the 90s, Bob Crow used to justify tube drivers in London getting paid 40,000 a year, and he said it's the going rate for tube drivers. There's no apology to be made. Well, it's the same for minicab drivers. Why shouldn't we? But it's up to you. Join the union, drive the pay up. That's how we win. So it's up to us.
Yeah, no, but anyway, James, we've got to cut. So we got a lot to discuss. We got the TFL issue, TFL letter that they sent out, and also quickly on the letter, pre-action letter we sent. We need to talk about the compensation and the email Uber sent to everyone. Also, the law firm and drivers getting deactivated for recently. So just like 4 topics, yeah. So should we just start off? You want to just quickly touch on the email TFL sent to everyone? Just quick and easy. Just summarize. A lot of people are asking, like, what does that mean in terms of TFL? Are they doing anything, or are they putting pressure on other operators? Or what's the meaning of that email that went out today?
Well, we've been putting pressure on TFL. So we teamed up with Foxglove Legal because we're twisting TFL's arm, because what the Supreme Court said is that this contractual arrangement that Uber has had that's caused us all these problems. They said, well, not only is it illegal in terms of the drivers not getting paid properly, but it's probably not compliant with the TFL regulatory regime. So now, so we wrote to TFL and said, we told you that all along. We've been telling you that since 2015, and you denied it. And so we wrote to them through our lawyers, Foxglove, and we said, look, clarify this situation quick now. And if you don't, we'll take legal action against TFL. Well, that TFL got a problem because they screwed up. They should have listened to us when they had the chance to listen to us, but they didn't. So now they're kind of covering their tracks. It's a bit of a nothing statement. It's to operators to say, I mean, I'll tell you what, if I was an operator tonight, I'd be absolutely furious with TFL, because you send that out and you also sent it to the drivers as well. You didn't just send it to the operators, you sent it to the drivers as well, and to the taxi drivers. So they're putting the operators on notice. Well, if you don't have your house in order, blah, 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 then, whatever. Well, thanks, TFL. Thank you, is what I would say as an operator. But I think it's TFL's way of trying to get out of the line of fire. They won't get out of the line of fire with us for that easily. So TFL need to move a bit more on that than they have at the moment. But I can see what they're trying to do. Very clever. I don't know. What do you think, Yassine?
No, I agree. I think TFL, they're just trying to hide in the background. But a lot of this problem that we have in this industry is by TFL. And there's a lot of division created by TFL by dividing the taxis and the private hire and then splitting the Uber drivers and the other operators. So, I'm glad that we're actually, TFL are now listening to us and more afraid of us. Yeah. But it's still not enough. I think we're gonna go after TFL hard, but it's gonna take a little time. But that's the next target for us, guys. We'll be pointed. We'll be there soon. But anyway, let's just move on. The next thing was
well, the more members we have, the sooner we'll get there.
Yeah. I mean, put it this way: like, the biggest organization in London is the LTDA with 10,000 members. Yeah. So even now, like, we got over like right now, we got other union people on our video watching us, and they watch us, and then they go back and do what we say. So we lead. That's my message.
They try.
So we're leading. If you don't see anyone else, yes, it's easy to copy, but we're leading, and people then go back and follow. So why not just be with the leaders? Why? So end of the day, listen, we're the guys. We're the real people. We've been fighting for the trade, not just in London. We have the best leaders. We have Azim Hanif in Nottingham. We have Eddie in Glasgow, like Alfie, Barry. We have Mr. Shah in Northampton. We have some great guys in Birmingham. So we have Shafqat, who's very active in Wolverhampton. So the point is, look, we're national, but people just seem to see me and James, unfortunately. But there's a lot happening behind closed doors. And what we need more militant people to come and join the team. And I see these posts on Facebook every day. People talk about union. We need a union. But there's a union that's been around for 6 years. We've been organizing for 6 years. We started this case against Uber 6 years ago. And as a result, today, everyone is getting some benefit. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, it's useful for people to understand our genesis. We started as as United Private Hire Drivers, UPHD, back in 2015. We affiliated to the IWGB as UPHD. We then disaffiliated. It was the right decision to do for the reasons now we're now seeing. We're reaping the rewards of doing that, of disaffiliating, because it gives us the right focus of attention that we needed. So we disaffiliated as UPHD. But the problem was IWGB kept using the name. Now we asked them to stop using the name. And they haven't cooperated with that. So anyway, it was a good strategy for us to change to App Drivers and Couriers Union, because we needed to reflect that our coming battle is really also is about opening up platforms. It's about understanding how people are managed by algorithms, and where we're cracking into that and making some really good progress. Like some of the stuff we've been talking about, the facial recognition is a big part of that. And also we wanted to bring in couriers because we can see people are doing an integrated job. So yeah, we agreed to not be UPHD anymore. But we would say that IWGB really shouldn't be using that name. But as long as people understand when they see that name that it's not us.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, it's important. So there's a lot of people pretending to be us, and I want to say even law firms are pretending to be us. I want to be very clear, James. Which law firm represented you in this case?
Yeah, and it's BWB. Yeah, I think we're talking about Lee Day. Lee Day, I've got this thing up where they're advertising, and they said they won something at the Employment Appeal Tribunal, but they didn't show up. They didn't show up at the Employment Appeal Tribunal. Yassine and I are the only people who were at all four battles. Lee Day weren't there. I'm just looking at it now. What did they say? They say they won something at the Employment Appeals Tribunal. That was the second stage. They didn't even show up for that. It was our lawyers have carried this all the way through. So it's okay. Listen, it's okay. I mean,
that's fine. I got no problem. Like I said, and I said it earlier, like we've been doing this for 4 years. Yeah. Even Sam turned around, like Sam watching you. You remember Sam, Uberman, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Even he called us ugly through because we work so hard. And we're even like look 8:30 on a Friday night. We're sitting here talking to you. Yeah. We're doing what we can, and we're always there. But the point is,
I don't mind, Yassine, if the likes of Lee Day, you try to associate with what was UPHD and by extension through us. I don't mind if they do that. The only thing I was concerned about was on Wednesday was the kind of messaging coming out. Like we were kind of brought, we're blindsided on, was it Wednesday night or Tuesday? I can't even remember. The week is a blur. And we started to get calls. I got a call from the Wall Street Journal at about 8:30, and it was embargoed till 9 o'clock. And somebody, I think the BBC had sort of involved Lee Day and some of the other parties involved in this, and the message they came out with at 10 o'clock was, we won, this is a tremendous victory. And I'm thinking, God, I'm glad they don't represent me, because Lee Day, we hadn't won. We still have to fight for this working time. There's still about 40% of our total time that's not being paid, that we're still fighting for. So I would glad that we, but that's the only thing is I don't really, it's a complicated picture because there are other law firms and other unions involved, and that's fine. But I just, it's very important that people understand that we're with BWB. We're still fighting for full pay for all time you're working. And it's really important that people understand that's where we're at. That's what we're still fighting for, and so we'll continue to fight for. And honestly, even after this battle is over, we'll still be pushing. We're still always going to be pushing for a better deal, no matter what. Some of these other law firms might want to, call quits and take a check, but we're not going to give up until our members are taken care of.
All right. Now that you touched on that topic, James, so everyone got an email from Uber. I also got an email, even
Me too.
I got that email, and a lot of people have, yeah. And the point is, Uber does want to settle with drivers, and that is because it's a big, massive liability to them, and at some stage they need to draw a line on it, yeah. And they want to. Now the point is, the form they send out, you're not committing to nothing. That is just a Google form. That's for you to fill out. You're welcome to. Like, I mean, I'm James. Did you win? Like, did you go to fight this case to win for yourself, or did you wanted everyone to benefit?
No, I wanted everyone to benefit. I was annoyed with Uber because of the way they handled an assault with me and the aftermath of that. And I thought, no, this is not good enough. And then I just saw how poor my earnings were compared to expectation. And honestly, I have no idea what any settlement is worth. That's honestly the truth. I have no idea how much we get, because in some respects, even if there's a short-term bump of if you get some money, if you get some found money, and it is found money because it's money. Let's face it, none of us ever thought we'd ever see. The thing we really should be talking about is how we go forward. That's. I definitely think people should say, I want to get paid for money that I lost. But equally, or maybe even more, our focus should be on the future.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, bottom line is the money doesn't mean anything to us. Yeah, it's money. But the main point behind it is we want every driver to guess what's rightfully theirs. And I had so many people calling me, like literally over 100 calls. I'm sure James and we're being bombarded with our website crashed yesterday.
Yeah.
Our website crashed because of the amount of volumes and emails and everything coming through, But my point is, look, and I just want to put it out there black and white and clear. I'm happy for you guys to claim, whether you go from Uber, whether you go to Kellenekler, whether you go to Joe Blog, or whether you go to Sam or Uberman or whoever it is, yeah? We want you to claim. I have no individual beef with you. What I would say to you, try and get the maximum possible. Don't settle for pennies, because we worked 6 years to get this. We sacrifice a lot, and don't just do it on a cheap. Yeah. But just want to, and one of the questions that we're getting asked about is that email that Uber sent. You're not committing to anything. That's just a Google form for you to register your interest. So Uber might come back and they'll offer you, calculate whether it's £10,000, £5,000, £20,000, £30,000. Maybe you're not eligible. Yeah. But the problem is the way, James, you still got members calling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It never stops.
Yeah, I got phone, and there's a few guys watching me. Listen, I'm on live, yeah. So call me afterwards.
I think I get that too. Oh, he's on live. Let me call him.
Yeah, call me afterwards. So, but the point is, look, like no one knows what's it apart from solicitors. They can work out your claim, exactly how much you're entitled to. The court ruling, the Supreme Court rule. Forget all the lower courts. We'll just talk about the last and the final stage. It was ruled that you're a worker from the time you logged on to the time you logged off. So therefore, you should be getting paid for, let's say you logged on for 10 hours. Your payment should be 10 hours. Your holiday pay should be based on those 10 hours. Now, Uber might just pay you for 1 hour or 2 hours. I don't know. But everyone's circumstances is different. Maybe you need that money today. Maybe you don't. Maybe you could, like the point is, look, by you filling out that form, you haven't done anything. But I would advise you to be cautious to sign an agreement. That's the next stage. That needs, you need to be careful with what you're agreeing. And as a union, we will be there guiding our members, and we will get you the legal advice. Forget the solicitors for a minute and the commission they're taking. Yeah, this is just legal advice on your contract, because everyone would have more or less the same contract. That's what we do as a union, and that's what we'll do. So go ahead and do it, because maybe you might be better off with Uber and getting the lump sum. So let's say Uber offers you £10,000. Maybe you go through a solicitor like Kellenekler and they might get you £20,000. But let's say they take 50% of that money, you're back to square one again, which is £10,000.
Well, they won't take 50%. They'll take a maximum of 40%.
Yeah, but the point is the stakes have changed a lot. When we won at the Supreme Court, Uber did not have any intention to pay anyone. It was down to 25 claimants. And that's what they always agreed. They agreed to pay the 25 claimants, not the rest.
That's right. That's what they said when we straight out of the Supreme Court. It only applied to a few people, blah, 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 and they weren't going to do anything for anybody else.
Yeah. So anyway, James, so what is it? Sorry, like I just briefly touched on it. So we got this form. people fill it in. What's the next stage? Do they go to the
well, yeah. I mean, Yassine, let's not just gloss over that. I mean, you're doing that, but if Uber had its way, it would have come out of the Supreme Court and said, right, well, we'll pay off James and Yassine and everybody else. Sorry, you weren't in the claim, and anyway, the app is different now. But we campaigned like hard since then, you know, in Parliament, in the media, and wherever, to make sure Uber wouldn't get away with that. And I think that's worked. But the game has changed because we've been campaigning and because these firms have been signing up a lot of claims. Uber now sees the writing on the wall, which is why they come back on Wednesday to offer up something. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. So yeah, you can avoid paying commission to a law firm if you accept what Uber give you, but you have to recognize they wouldn't have given you anything if A, we hadn't went to the Supreme Court, and B, our campaigning and these law firms have been putting so much pressure on Uber since the Supreme Court that now they have had to come up with something. But that's, you know, recognize that putting up that something has now changed the game. So what I would say is somebody like Keller Lenkner are very aggressive, and they're going to maximize your claim because they're bringing it into high court, so they can look back over a longer period of time over your earnings than the likes of Lee Day can. On the one hand, so you know, you can go that way, or you can register with Uber and just wait and see. But you know what I would say is, before you sign any agreement anyway with Uber, we'll have to know what the deal is, and we'll all have to know what the deal is, and we can all look at it together, and we can discuss it here on Facebook Live. But also, I think from our understanding, Yassine, is that even before you sign anything, you'll have to get legal advice, and Uber will have to pay for that for everybody. It could be, you know, a couple of £100 or whatever, because they wouldn't be able to make an agreement with you unless you've been properly advised, independently advised. So I think it's no harm to sign up with Uber. And then I think, you know, people are with Keller Lenkner, and I know they're going to charge more money. But then if you sign up with them, then I think you can also expect Keller Lenkner to get you more money, since they're going to charge you more money, if you know what I mean. So it's still early to say how this is all going to land, but pressure works. The one I would sort of maybe at this stage maybe steer clear of is probably the Lee Days, because they haven't been aggressive. You know, so I'd either maybe just hang out for Uber or choose somebody more aggressive, or even choose somebody cheaper. There, you know, there's firms out there for 15%, I think, even, and others. But that's probably where that's probably where I think it'd be at the moment. I don't know. Yassine, does that sound about right to you?
No, I agree. I mean, it's hard, but the point is, I think the problem we have is when you talk about employment laws, they are so complex. Even me, I've been through the process for 6 years, and I still don't understand the whole ins and out. Now, there's this thing that they call timeout or strikeout, you know. So you could turn around and decide you're going to fire your solicitor and say to Keller Lenkner or whichever law firm you're using that you don't want to use them. And then you decide, thinking that Uber is going to pay you. Maybe Uber might not pay you something. And then suddenly you realize your claim has now striked out. And bear in mind, the Supreme Court gave their verdict on 19th of February. So that also will have an impact on your case, like 3 months limit. You know, it just, everything changes. And we're going to talk about a lot of drive that got deactivated later on towards the end as well. Yeah. And just to give you a bit of background around that. But the point is, look, it's your choice. I can't force you. James cannot force you. The union cannot force you. We could recommend people based on who we think are right, but the choice is yours. So if you decide you want to cancel with the law firm and you want to go to Uber direct, you know, and maybe tomorrow Uber might decide they don't want to pay anyone then. You know, like the point is, there is no, you know, there's nothing confirmed there. Unless you have a comparison saying Uber offered me £5,000 based on 10 hours, and this solicitor firm could get me whatever, you know, then you could compare. But right now, no one has that comparison. But what the reason why I want everyone to be aware of the facts, because don't do something and then regret it afterwards. Because some drivers, especially drivers that work many years, like 5, 6, 7 years, they have a good massive claim, you know. So don't just lose that. But the purpose is, look, do fill out that Google form, because you know you're entitled to it. You know, one of the things that drivers were scared, we used to get a lot of drivers before Uber made their announcement that were scared to come forward and claim. At least now you got nothing to worry about, because Uber are now asking, you know, willing to engage with you directly, which is good. Yeah, that's it, James. I think we covered that bit. But the main thing is, if you're already with a law firm, doesn't matter which law firm, they are your solicitors and you could go to them for advice. I am not a solicitor, nor is James, and the union is not a law firm. We're a union. We're there to assist our members on a day-to-day basis, but we're not there to give you legal advice. You know, that's the solicitor's job. So if you're already with a solicitor, go to them, get the guidance you need and advice you need from them. Okay.
Yeah, and even if you, whatever Uber ends up coughing up, you'll be entitled to get legal advice before you're bound by any agreement you enter into them. So I wouldn't be too stressed out about it just yet. So you know, I mean, the thing is, it's a hard balance. You know, if you go with an aggressive firm like Keller Lechner, you may end up with more money. If you go with a less aggressive one, like what we saw with Lead Day this week, then you may end up with lesser money. But then, by the time you pay their commission, are you better off just taking what Uber gives you? I don't know. It's hard to tell. It might be. We'll know soon. We will know soon. We'll know what Uber plan to put on the table. But the thing that we're still not happy about is Uber's not putting on the table what they were ordered to do, which is to pay you for every hour that you're on the platform. I know it's a multi-apping issue, but that's not our fault. That's not our problem. That's for Uber and other operators to sort out. You should be getting. There's no doubt in my mind. You should be guaranteed at least the minimum wage for every hour you're logged in. Whoever you're logged into. If you're working and you're logged into somebody, you've got to get minimum wage, whether you're waiting or you're on the job for that full period of time you're working. And it's up to the apps, us, the courts, to figure out how to make that happen. But that's what we're committed to. And the multi-apping makes it a bit complicated, but that's, like I say, it's not our problem. But you know, we got to keep fighting for that. We got to keep, because these unless we're able to get this wait and time paid for, you know, these apps are going to oversubscribe the market, and that's the problem. You know, that's the problem is there's too many people chasing too little work, and Uber like it that way, because the more of us that are out there, the quicker the response time. The quicker the response time is a competitive advantage for Uber. You're paying for it. You're paying for it when you're working, when you're sitting there for nothing.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I think you covered most points. We're nearly hitting an hour, but just one quick thing, because we have a few courier guys watching. You know, we're also looking, and I'm not sure if you heard the last video. So if you go onto our Facebook Live, you can see a video James done about the data. So our next target, and we will be working more closely with the couriers. So if you know any Deliveroo or Uber Eats drivers, get them to join up. You know, we're running a campaign. Just last week, we won a case for a courier driver in Glasgow. So we do represent couriers, and a lot of stuff that we don't talk about and people don't know about it. It's because we don't have time, because we're always doing something, helping guys. Yeah. So if you're a courier, welcome to join. Yeah.
The one thing that couriers need to understand is that up till the Supreme Court ruling, it had been a more difficult road for couriers to follow for the similar worker status, because these courier companies and Deliveroo and so on just wrote stuff into the contracts to try and disqualify you, like substitution clauses, all that kind of stuff. But this ruling is so powerful that we fought so hard for it that the court has said, look, if you're putting stuff in contracts like that, that there really isn't a realistic way to substitute, for example, then that won't stand in court. So I think through our work, we've opened up room that makes it far more likely that courier cases are going to succeed in future. So you're definitely in the right union if you're a courier, is with ADCU.
Okay. Just quickly, James, Bolt and Ola, how does this ruling impact him?
Well, they've been very quiet, haven't they? They haven't said a word, right? They've been extremely quiet. Well, the one thing we know from Uber's communications the other day is they're very keen to stick it to the other operators in London, because they made a big point of saying that they expect all the other operators to follow suit. So good, we're seeing a race to the top. Good. No, the Bolt have nowhere to hide on this. They're going to have to match this. Just no two ways about it. And same for Ola. Ola, quite honestly, Ola are fighting for their lives. If you were to see the report that TfL published on Ola, because Ola got their license refused and now they're going to magistrates court, oh my God, you wouldn't believe how bad they are inside. I mean, they couldn't pull together a spreadsheet for TfL. There's a real likelihood that they won't be able to stay in London. It's that bad. I mean, the problems Uber had are nothing compared to the mess that Ola's in internally. So unless they massively transform themselves in the next couple of months before that hearing is held, they're in big trouble. But if they stay here, they'll absolutely have to follow suit. And if they don't, we'll be after them. I mean, it'll be shooting fish in a barrel for us. So we'll be after them.
Yeah, but anyway, let's go on to, because we got a lot of guys here, not a lot, but a handful of guys that only come on because they got deactivated, and they're not members of our union. They recently got deactivated by Uber, and the point is, forget recently. If you get deactivated by Uber, and if you're a member of our union, we'll try and do what we can to help you. But if you're not a member, there's nothing we could do for you. But having said that, just to touch on the topic, since Uber made this announcement, they got rid of, well, not rid of, people weren't working, so they turned their app off, and they basically now have to go back and onboard. Yeah. So you want to just quickly touch on that topic, yeah? Like the guys that got deactivated. What's the reason? Why do you think Uber done that?
I don't know. Why do you think they did it?
Well, I think they did it because they don't want to pay these guys.
Yeah.
And that's exactly my point. You can go with Uber or you could use a law firm, but because they're doing everything to make sure that their pay is the minimum possible and to limit their liabilities. So, for example, if you haven't logged on to the app for over 30 days or 90 days at minimum, if they cut you off, it's going to be very hard for you to challenge. Now, we've been telling people for the last 6 years to join the case, and if you suddenly got dismissed or they turned you off and asking you to rejoin, it will be really hard for you now to claim some kind of compensation, but there's nothing we could do. The only option you now have is to go to a law firm like Keller Neckler and see if they could get you that compensation, or if Uber's willing to give it to you. But I don't think Uber wants to, because what they want to do is put you back on a contract and remove all that liability.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there is an upside to it, though. And that is, if Uber is to reduce the number of people on the road, it's going to drive up fares. I mean, we have to be realistic here. The more flexibility you demand and you expect, I mean, then you can expect that in the flip side of that is lower pay. That's what Uber wants. So you got to think about what's most important to you in life, and also this thing about people being deactivated. Well, I mean, as Yassine says, I mean, just go get yourself reactivated again.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's probably good though that in the long run, and I hope that everybody who wants to be on the platform is on the platform. But in the long run, we've begged Uber to stop to stop putting people on the platform, to stop flooding the circuits. And so in some respects, this is to be a good thing.
I mean, yeah, I mean the truth. Like, so as a union, we have always been pushing for a cap. We have been asking Uber to put a cap on the number of drivers. And even like the guys from 2014, when we went into Uber's office, that was our first demand. You need to cap the number of drivers. You keep bringing more and more drivers, which means the fares are going down. Yeah. And at the same time, there's more and more drivers fighting for the same work. That has always been the end goal. And it's not just Uber. We're also trying to get TfL, Transport for London, to cap the number of licensing. And that will happen one day as well. But the point is, we have to understand that, there will be some restrictions. And it's the same for the customers. Like, a lot of customers are annoyed with us because they don't want this worker status, because they want the fares to go down and down, because they want it cheaper and cheaper. But unfortunately, I don't want to be a slave. If they want cheap cabs or whatever, that's not I care what goes. I want a living wage, and I want to be able to make a decent money and come home and feed my family. Could I go out there to do a job? I'm not doing it because I enjoy it, or it's a charity thing where I pick people up from A to B, and it should be cheaper than tubes. So there needs to be. So in New York, when this happened, the fares were up, but they did cap, and there's going to be a cap. And even now going forward, they will get rid of certain drivers. And one of the things I'm going to say to everyone again, now more than ever, since you've been in this trade, now more than ever, you need to be a member of a union. Why? Because you're going to see more and more deactivation and action taken against you, because they want to get rid of you. They want to get rid of that liability.
Well, the more they pay, also in normal times, Yassine, the more they pay you, the more they're going to want to be choosy.
Yeah.
That's the reality, and that's why you need to be in a union, because you're still not going to have, if worker status, you're not going to have legal protection from unfair dismissal. So the only protection you have from unfair dismissal is union protection from unfair dismissal.
Yeah, because I see Hassan keeps posting again. Yeah, so he hasn't worked since December. So that's 3 months. 3 months you haven't worked. And the point is, like, they haven't sacked you. All they've done is said, that's all right. If you're not working, that's fine. We're just going to block you for the time being. When you're ready to work, come back in again and we let you work. That's all they've done. If they blocked you, like, let's say you were working last night and they suddenly blocked you today, that's what you call dismissal. So what happened to you is you haven't got deactivated. All they've done is just withdraw. And I think this was discussed in the tribunal back in 2016, where you have to work X amount of time to be on the app. And as Jay mentioned, going forward, they will want quality drivers. And that's what it's always been. Like, when you go out to do a job. You're going to work. You're not going to, like, a lot of people make it out like we just want to be parked up and getting paid for waiting time. No, we want to be working, but we need to be making a decent wage. And in order to get that, what it means is we got to, it's like back in the days for the drivers that used to work back in 2013, 2014, when surge was on, everyone was out there, you know where to be, you'll come out. And that's the kind of stuff, because to do that, you need to have the numbers capped. Yeah, and then they need real drivers, not people that just going to sit around and get paid, because it's going to cost them money if people are sitting around getting paid. So they'll need quality people.
It's our job to make this industry better. More professional, better paid. You can make a decent living on it. You can have a good lifestyle. You can have a mortgage. You can have a home. You can work a reasonable amount of hours rather than 90 hours and be okay. It's not too much to ask. That's what the union's for. But that's the goal,
So a lot of people are shielding, and we understand. Like, the point here is, as a worker, you're not entitled to sick pay. If we were employees, then you'd be entitled to sick pay. And that's maybe something, all the drivers that are complaining about shielding and not getting something, you need to file a case for employee status. Push Uber for employee status. Therefore, when something like that happens, you're off sick, you have sick pay. You know, so at the moment, if you're at home shielding or you're ill, you know, you don't have no Uber owes you no obligation because you're a self-employed LIMB worker. And that's exactly what's happening. You know, and we've always been trying to explain people about the status, employment status, which is a LIMB workers, a middle status. And even Jamie Hayward actually was talking about this, and they all knew, Uber knew this from day one, but they did everything to resist it and fight us. And eventually, when we won all the way to the top, that's when they gave up. And like I said, it doesn't change. It just makes things better for drivers in many ways. It just puts a floor, and it puts some kind of restriction to make the trade better for everyone. You know, so you'll have a chunk of drivers working at Bolt, a chunk of drivers working at Ola, a chunk of drivers working for Uber. You know, and everyone's happy. And that's how it used to be back in the days, yeah?
And it's why we have to keep fighting for working time to be paid, because until that waiting time costs Uber and Ola and Bolt something, they'll just, the danger is that they'll flood the market with excess drivers. Yes, there'll be favorable terms, but only when you're POB, and that's not necessarily a good thing then. So we want that time paid because it gives the right incentives, economic incentives, for these companies to reduce the number of people they're putting on the road if it's going to cost them money. And you got to think about that. If it was your own business, would you have, like, if it was ever viable to put 70,000 people on the streets of London with vehicles, how come Addison Lee only ever at their highest ever put 5,000 on the street? If there was a market there, it was a business, you could make money doing that. Why did Addison Lee only stop at 5,000?
Yeah.
You know, the truth is, it's not viable, but they dumped the cost of that on all of us. So it's up to us to correct things. That's why the waiting time must be paid. And at the same time, we got to keep fighting for caps, because we got to ration this thing down and get people paid properly.
So just to touch on this again, so all the drivers that are shielding, or that's the word they're using, they were shielding and they didn't work for 7 months or 9 months or 3 months or whatever. And if you did file your case with a law firm, you got nothing to worry about because you're still entitled to that compensation because you claimed in time. So when Uber tries to sign you up on a new contract, that old contract still applies. You've done it. You know, so you haven't locked out anything. So when you're ready to come back to work, just go back to work. You know, but if you haven't claimed, then, you know, there's nothing I could do. I can't make time go back and make you claim for it, you know, because I think that's where the problem really is. People can't claim because they missed out. For those who did put in a claim, and I've spoken to a few drivers that are shielding, what you need to do is speak to your solicitor and tell them that you got deactivated recently, but it shouldn't affect your claim in any ways or shape or form. Okay. And that's about it, James. We've been on, I think today we had a big audience, and we even got a few guys from IWGB watching us today as well, which is great, you know. And there you go. So we lead, you know, you know, like I said, I'm also like.
Is there any questions? Any outstanding questions?
I didn't get time to look through the questions. There's too many coming through today.
Let's have a quick look before we go. See what people are saying. Hopefully this has been helpful for people. But do we give the worker info exchange link? That's another reason to get your data, by the way, is because we're going to do some calculations on the data, you know, to get your total hours on the road, the running cost of your vehicle, and so on, so that we're in better position to understand how much you should be paid. Because Uber's going to calculate your time, your cost on the road is 45 pence per mile, the HMRC rate. So I don't know how people feel about that being the basis of any of your running cost expenses. I don't know. What do you think, Yassine? 45 pence a mile, reasonable?
Yeah. I mean, this is like this again, like there's going to be a lot of problems. This is why we keep saying join a union. And we talked about this when Uber first made an announcement. We were on here up to 11:30 that night on Tuesday night. And what you got to remember is the HMRC 45p a mile is for private cars. For every, like, let's say if you were a private hire driver or a taxi driver, and you just had a normal job in an office or something, and you were to claim mileage, HMRC recommend 45p. Now, you can't compare a private hire and reward insurance to an average normal day-to-day insurance. You know, like let's say like my car, if I use it for social use, it'll cost me like £300 a year, where a lot of people, when they for private hire and reward insurance, you're paying up to £5,000. You know, sometimes it's a lot more. You also are getting the newest car possible because TfL requires you to have a car at a certain age. Then we got a lot of people doing executive, you know, like they have the high-end cars. You have people doing, you know, electric cars, for example, because they don't want to pay congestion charge. So it all like the 45p is not right. It should be at least over £1, you know, or 90p minimum, 90p I would say. Yeah. So don't fall for that 45p. That doesn't touch, you know, that's just injustice, you know. That's like you doing a job for £1, you know, a minimum fare £1. That's the way I see it. You know, you're taking someone from London to Birmingham for £50 because the fuel costs, you know, £20 or something like that, or £30, you know. So, you know, like yeah, so that's, I think we touched on what was anyone got any questions? Post them now because we have too many questions coming.
I just do a shout out to Samir Drenny.
Yeah,
I know he's online. There, Samir is our Heathrow. He's ADCU Heathrow. So if you're out at Heathrow, please look up Samir and say hi. He's doing an incredible job out there in holding Heathrow to account, driving some improvements there. We're not done yet. There's a lot more going on. We'll talk about that again. There's a lot more to come on that. But I mean, this is, Yassine talked about this. There's sort of a lot of work going on in the background. So we come to the fore with it when we can. But there's an awful lot that's going on, and Samir's involved in an awful lot with moving things on at Heathrow.
Asim Badger, like this is a classic example. Yeah, he doesn't work for Uber. He stopped working in 2000 or last year when he got deactivated. But he filed his case within 90 days when he stopped working for Uber. So even though he hasn't worked for, his case is still valid and pending because he filed it a long time ago. I see another comment from Hassan again. If we are not active, we are not going. So clearly, yeah. Why? If you don't work for Uber, why would they want to pay you? You're not active. Simple. You know, when you're ready to work, you could come in and work, and they'll turn you back on. What was it? If you call me, yeah. So any more questions? Okay, one of the questions we got this guy Tariq Ryan, yeah. Again, it's I think that's a troll, yeah.
Why we're not fighting for a Bolt? Yeah, we'll get to Bolt. Don't worry, we'll get him. We'll get there.
This is not the first time he posted a few comments, yeah. Why are we not? The point is, why is it it's not my job. It's not James' job. What are you doing? Why don't you come forward, contact the union, and say, I want to bring a case against Bolt. This is all the evidence. I'm happy to spend my money or time. And we'll do it. But as a union, we have been fighting Bolt and Ola.
It's also common sense. Anybody who's ever knows anything about playground politics is you go after the biggest bully in the playground. I mean, if we went after the smallest one while Uber was and we concentrated all our energy on Bolt and not on Uber, people would be saying, why are you picking on Bolt? Uber's got 80% of the marketplace. It should be going after them. Of course, you have to go after the biggest one first. Bolt will wipe the floor with Bolt. That's not a problem.
Yeah. So if you're shielding, we're still in lockdown, by the way. So you need to shield for another 4 or 5 weeks. And Uber knows that's going to be the classic excuse. People are going to come around and say they're shielding. So that's why they said 4 or 5 weeks, because that gives them time to make out these new contracts and everything, you know. So there will be a change. And I do think the commission is going to change sometime. The fare is going to change. A lot of things are going to change, and it's important to be part of a union so we could fight. So if, like, I see one of our members today who's also a member of GMB, I forgot his name. If you're with the GMB, welcome, stay with them. GMB does have, like a big, massive union. They have, like they're a big union. But what we are is we're dedicated and we're focused on the drivers and the couriers. That's it. That's our special. We specialize in that industry. We're experts, and we have leaders in those fields. So we're just focused on there. But if you find a better union, join them, but don't expect to come to us when you're a member of another union. Expect us to do stuff for you on a casework. It doesn't work like that. That's fine. You're welcome to join any union. Join them.
The focus is important. We're focused on private hire, couriers, app drivers. There's going to be no yoga branches, or anything like that. Private hire, couriers. That's it. If we can do that well, we'll be doing enough. We don't need to be doing a whole 100 other things as well, and that's important.
Yeah. But anyway, James, one question, just one more last question we deal with. What's the benefit of joining the union, James? We went through it, but
well, I having seen how things have evolved over the past years, it is obvious why you join a union, because how are we as individuals with little influence and little power on our own going to take on somebody like Uber? They unilaterally set you a contract. They're going to set the fares. They're going to whatever, and they're not going to listen to anybody. So if you want to think you can get on with them by yourself, good luck to you. You won't get far. If you're relying on the government to protect you, good luck to you. We've had this for 6 years, going on 7 years. They've done nothing. They won't do it. They're still not doing it. The only way that this changed was through union power. So that should be self-evident at this point. But let me just answer it more selfishly. Oh, dear Steve. More selfishly, the way I would answer this is that look at where we're at now. We're entering an era where the likes of Transport for London, and when I know please don't think I'm London focused, but TfL sets the pace for the rest of the country. What happens here happens throughout the rest of the country sooner or later. TfL has pushed Uber into surveillance enforcement because that's what TfL wants. And TfL wants red meat on the table every month. They want the activations. They want to see it because it proves to them that the job's been done. And they don't really care whether you did anything wrong or not. Just put some red meat on the table for TfL. Give them some sacrifices every month. If you don't want to be one of those sacrifices, or if you are pulled up, you want somebody at your side, then you need to be in a union. So there's two reasons why you need to be in a union. You won't win against powerful companies like Uber unless you're in a union. And if you're going to protect your license, you're on a license that's not only civilly enforced, but criminally enforced. Yeah, that's right. Criminally enforced. If you want to make your living that way, you need to be in a union, or you need to have real protection behind you. And let me give you a third reason, right? I read through all of these witness statements about how Uber lost its license and how the rise of this real-time ID thing. The one thing that was really funny that I wanted to share with you, but tells you something about the twisted mentality of some of these platform companies. There was a statement in there from a woman called Laurel Freeling Powers, and she's on the chair of Uber's UK board. And the Magistrates Court 2 years ago made Uber put in this board to look after the management who were not doing a great job at the time and to push them on enforcement. Since then, they've added a few more people to that board. And in the they gave a witness statement to the hearing where Uber won its license back in September. Do you know what one of the ideas that a member of the board had to, as he said, change a culture of compliance? The idea was that Uber would not only deactivate you, but that they'd start suing their own drivers. You got that? I heard that right. They were going to start suing their own drivers. That's what we're up against. Not a company that even wants to employ you or look after you. They actually want to sue you if they think you've done something wrong. That's why you need to be in a union, because that's the type of people we're dealing with.
Yeah, no, but I've seen that it's quite common now. Everyone thinks it's easy to sue people.
Yeah.
And it's especially in the trade union movement, and it's shameful for me to talk about this and say this. Suing people is not the right way. That is a disgusting thing to do.
It's not trade union behavior anyway, that's for sure.
It's becoming quite common where bosses would therefore started doing the same because they're following an example of bad unions or comrades. So if you're one of those guys that are involved in suing people, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's not the way a trade union, or because if anything, you're giving the bosses, you're leading the way for the bosses.
You're leading by example, right?
Leading the way to bosses.
What's the union term? The Irish union term is blackleg. I think what's it called here? In America, it's called yellow. UK is called scab, is it?
Scab union. That's what it is. It's a scab union. So you could be paying a scab union, and a lot of drivers don't understand like what a union is or what a scab union. They think they're a member. Even now, I get drivers calling me because they're with a scab union. That's what it is. But they don't know. And someone asked a question about where our money goes. I don't get paid a salary. James doesn't get paid a salary. No one at our union gets paid a salary. All the money that we get goes back into helping members. So for example, let's say you became a member of our union and in 6 months' time you had your license revoked, even though you paid us £60, we technically might be spending £2,000, £3,000 to a solicitor to represent you. Where does that money come from? Not from my pocket or James' pocket. It comes collectively from all of us. And that's why we had to put these conditions where we can't help you. You can't just join a union with a big legal bill. It doesn't work like that. So we're working collectively to help everyone. Okay. That's about it now. I think we covered.
I want to wish everybody a fantastic weekend. It's been a phenomenal but exhausting week. We had to fight back against the Uber tidal wave of PR on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever that is. Then we had this facial recognition thing launched. We've asked Microsoft to withdraw Uber's license, and on top of that, all the other casework we're doing. So it's been a phenomenal week. We've grown like wildfire this week. I mean, just the volume of membership we put on this week. Keep it coming. The bigger we are, the stronger we are. We're realizing the dream. We're realizing the vision of what we set out to do. More great leaders getting involved all over the country. Steve Hull is on there. He's heading up in Birmingham. Zamir is on there. All the boys are on there. And
by the way, I don't know if I should be saying this, but we got one guy, Asad from Manchester, watching. So we got a lot of members join from Manchester. As soon as we come out of this pandemic, we're going to have one of the biggest branch in Manchester. And also, just to give you a heads up, Sheffield, Nottingham, they are strongholds. We have a lot of members in those areas. So we're going to see more and more branches set up naturally in different cities. So if you want to become active or you want to organize in your city, just send us an email. And if you're a member and you need help, it's no point. I mean, sometimes like we get loads of calls. The best way to raise the case is send an email to casework@adcu.org.uk. So send the email. That email is monitored. So for example, if you get a letter from TfL, which is quite urgent, make sure you attach that letter, send it in with your membership number, and someone will get straight back to you. If you got any other issues or whatever, write down your issue, your contact number, your phone number, your email. So we get a lot of emails that come through, but there's no phone number or the email, and no one checks that email. So when you send that email, put your details in, like your membership number, if you got it. If you haven't, just mention your membership and the email you use, your phone number, what the problem is, what's the best time to contact you. And if you got like let's say a letter from Uber or TfL, attach that, then it makes our work a lot easier and we could help you and do what we can to help you. But is there anything else you want to add, James, before we end it?
No, that's it. That's it. It's been an honor and of my life to work with Yassine and to work for this great group of people, and we're making progress. We're making progress everywhere against the police, changing the way police and TfL and others deal with. We're absolutely draining the swamp, and it's a real honor to be part of this movement. And I'm just excited about where we're going to take this in the next year or so. So I want to say thank you very much for being a part of this and allowing me to be part of it with you.
So anyway, we got Yassine and a few guys from Paris watching us, Ibrahim and Ryan.
Ibrahim and Ryan, good evening.
So by the way,
great comrades from France, and we're brothers.
Yeah. So one thing about ADCU, we're the only union in the UK working on an international platform with drivers from around the world. Yeah. So we got an alliance, and we have a seat on that alliance. In fact, I'm on the steering committee on that alliance. So we do have that network internationally. It's not just locally. So what you just see here is just a small, tiny bit of it. So we're working internationally with drivers from around the world in many different cities, in many different places. And that's our union. That's how strong we are in terms of network and connection. But one more thing before we go, Addison Lee drivers. So if you're Addison Lee driver, you're welcome to join us. There's nothing stopping you. We're open for all private hire drivers and all couriers. Yeah. But anyway, thank you guys. Yeah. It's a long video, man. I'm surprised we got over 200 people that sat here and watched us talk crap.
Oh my God! Obviously, got nothing better to do on a Friday night.
But anyway,
who's worse, them or us?
Yeah. But I think, I miss the old days when we used to have face-to-face meetings. I mean, regardless of what, I enjoyed it. We used to go for nice meals, and hopefully, once we come out of this pandemic, we're going to hold a big event again, and we'll all have these meetings everywhere. But anyway,
Inshallah.
Anyway, guys, catch you later. Yeah.
Bye bye.